Hello and welcome back to Artistic Curves Creative Corner, where we celebrate creativity with you. In today's episode, we're going to continue with our installment of videos on McCall's M8234. We are sewing a matching mother-daughter apron set. So if you've been following along in our video series, we have already cut out all of our fabric pieces and are going to be moving on to the sewing instructions today. However, before we begin, I realized that there is some sew-in interfacing for this project that we did not cut out. So I'm going to begin with cutting out our interfacing pieces so that when we get behind the sewing machine, we can just stay behind the sewing machine. Here we go. Okay, before we begin sewing, we're going to cut out our sew-in interfacing. I will be using white cotton as my interfacing. You can feel free to use whatever type of sew-in interfacing you like. We're going to start with the adult pieces. So we've got number 3, single thickness on the fabric between the selvages. Okay, and that is our layout for the adult interfacing piece number 3. Now we're going to cut this out. Okay, and those are the adult interfacing pieces cut out. All right, now we're going to move on to the child size interfacing. Okay, now we're going to do the child size sew-in interfacing. So we fold the fabric with the selvages together and do 2 pieces upside down along the fold. Okay, that's what our layout looks like. And now we're going to cut this out. Okay, and these are our 2 child size interface pieces. All right, let's get to sewing. Okay, we're here at the sewing machine and we're gonna review the sewing information before we begin. So it's always important to look at your fabric key so you know what side of the fabric you're going to be working with. And then this guide has a glossary of terms here. And so when we get to those, we'll come and see what their definition of particular thing is. But what I have done in order to keep everything organized is numbered all of my pieces. So we're going to start with piece number 1, which is our tie piece. And you should have 2 of them. And let's see. Sewing directions starting with number 1. Fold tie in half with right sides together, stitch leaving end with symbols open. Okay. So I'm going to fold them in half. And I'm doing chalk to the outside because we're going to do these inside out when we're done with them. All my chalk will be on the inside, but also I want to see where the dots are. Okay, so we're going to stitch them closed like this. I'm actually going to iron these flat real quick so I have a little bit more success with the sewing machine. And then we're going to run them through the sewing machine and then move on to step 2. Okay, I have ironed these pieces flat, folded in half, and pinned them down. And just to remind us, so we have a 5/8 inch seam allowance, which is not changed with this first direction. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to leave the end open with the dots. All right. And now my machine, I'm going to pick straight stitch, and I'm going to go with a long straight stitch just in case I mess it up and I need to undo it. Also, this is getting folded inside out, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. All right, here we go. So that is what that piece is going to look like once we're done with our stitching. Now we're going to do that on the second one. Okay, and our second piece. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Okay, step 2, turn right side out and press. So we need to turn our pieces that we just finished inside out, or in this case, right side out, and then press flat. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, to turn this piece inside out, I normally have a stick or something that I use. To help me poke this through there. Okay, so step 2, now that you need to turn the right side out and press. So I got a couple of sticks here. See how successful I'm going to be at getting this to turn right side out. It's so tiny. turned inside out. And we got to do that one more time. And I think on the second one, I'm actually going to clip this corner on the inside because it's a little bit bulky right there. Okay. So that lays a little bit flatter. And get my stick up in that corner, I can actually make that corner square. Okay, hey, we didn't do too bad. Okay, so now we need to press these flat. See if I can make that corner square. Probably not because I didn't trim that corner off. We can hope. Okay, well, that's a little bit better. Still bulky, but note to self, trim corners before turning inside out. Okay, let's iron these flat and then we'll move on to step 3. Okay, so we have now ironed these pieces flat, and we're going to move on to step 3, which is pin ties to upper edge of one bib, which is piece number 2, matching symbols. Okay, well, here is piece number 2. So we're going to match these symbols, and let's double check. It's showing us pinning this to the right side of the fabric. Pin to upper edge, matching symbols. The right side showing. Okay. We only need one of these. Right side showing. That makes more sense. Okay, now that looks like the picture. Okay, pin ties to upper edge of bib matching symbols. Okay, with right sides together, pin facing to bib along curved and upper edges matching symbols. Okay, and that is showing the wrong side of the fabric facing out. Okay. I'm going to do what they're doing in the picture, which is cross these over so we don't accidentally sew them into the sides of the bib, which I think is what they don't want us to do. Okay, double check our directions. With right sides together, right sides are facing each other, pin facing to bib along curved and upper edges matching symbols, and then stitch. Now that looks to me like what we got going on here. Okay, so now I just need to pin this down and stitch around the curves and the top. but not the bottom. All my things match up. All right. And we still have a 5/8 inch seam allowance. So make sure these are out of my way. Pin those so they don't get in my way while I'm going around. Okay. And I am still using my straight thread 5 millimeters. How we did. Turn this right side out. Okay. So now let's move on to the next step. Okay, the next step says turn right side out and understitch as far as possible, baste lower edges. So I'm going to do this from the inside because I personally can't understand how you're going to understitch a facing that doesn't actually flip to the outside. So, but I've done my notches. I'm actually going to decide which piece is the front. I guess I'll call this the front. And then I'm going to stitch, once I trim an edge, this to the front facing. That way when it folds to the outside, it lays flat. So okay, and now I'm going to iron this to one side. Okay, so I have ironed these flat to the facing piece, and now we're going to do the understitch to attach this seam allowance to the front facing piece. And I've switched my thread color to match this facing piece. Okay, so that's one side with the facing, the seam allowance stitched to the front facing. Now we got to do the front edge. And we're just doing where we can honestly get our our sewing machine in there. So don't feel like you have to do all the way around because it'll hold. And I personally do not want to go over these tie pieces because it gets bulky. inside and see what our progress has been. I think we did a pretty good job with that one. Okay, so that's folded that way, that's folded that way, that's folded that way. Okay, well that completes today's video on McCall's M8234, our matching mother and daughter apron set. We've completed steps 1 through 5 on the sewing directions today, and we have our bib and our neckties completed. If you like this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so you can check out and get notifications for when our next video drops. In this series, we'll be moving on to the next sewing step, which is going to be the waist, the skirt, and the pockets. So join us here next time to complete this project with us. And if you'd like to check out some of our digital prints online on other items like aprons and home goods, especially for the upcoming holiday season, go ahead and check out artisticcurvesboutique.com and support our small business there so we can continue to learn and grow with you. We look forward to seeing you here next time. Have a good one.